Welcome to round 2, your first video bonus round. For this, we are going to turn to an Amoeba Sisters video. You'll watch for a few minutes, and then you will have your question for this round.
Would you like to know one of the most underappreciated pieces of cytoplasm out there? Platelets. We take for granted the function of our platelets, which are fragments of cytoplasm that help stop us from bleeding. They help our blood clot when we get hurt. But there is a disorder called hemophilia that can affect those platelets because special clotting factor proteins that are needed to work with the platelets may not work correctly. So even a basic cut could be dangerous for people with hemophilia because they could bleed continuously. We have many treatments for the symptoms of hemophilia, and this has greatly improved outcomes with this disorder, although it wasn't always that way. Hemophilia is a sex-linked recessive trait, which means it's different from the basic Mendelian genetic problems. What do I mean by that? Well, we still use the terms dominant and recessive for alleles, but this time, because it's sex-linked, the alleles are on sex chromosomes. This is the case with sex-linked traits. So what is a sex chromosome? Well, recall that humans have 46 chromosomes. Chromosomes are made up of DNA and protein, and they contain your genes. Well, 2 of your 46 chromosomes, they are called the sex chromosomes. In a karyotype, it is usually the last 2 chromosomes that are the sex chromosomes. The sex chromosomes are called X and Y chromosomes, but it has nothing to do with the shape of the chromosome. That's always kind of confusing, but please don't think that Y chromosomes are shaped like a Y and X chromosomes are shaped like an X. This used to always confuse me. It has nothing to do with their name. The reason they got their name is actually kind of interesting, so to the Google for that. Everyone has an X chromosome, but if you have another X chromosome, meaning you have 2 X chromosomes, you are female. And if you have a Y chromosome, meaning you have an X and a Y chromosome, you are male. There are also genetic disorders where you can have extra copies of sex chromosomes, but we will not go into that in this clip. Sex-linked traits are traits that are specifically on the sex chromosomes. Most sex-linked traits tend to be on the X chromosome because it is larger than the Y chromosome and it contains more genes in the Y chromosome. The disorder hemophilia is like this. Now we will use the letter capital H to represent an allele for having normal blood clotting function, and a letter lowercase h to represent an allele for having hemophilia. Hemophilia is a sex-linked recessive disorder, which is why it's being represented by a lowercase letter h. Only it must be placed on the sex chromosome as a superscript, like an exponent. A woman that does not have hemophilia could have the genotype X big H, or X big H, X little h. Because as long as she's got at least one dominant allele, that dominating allele will be what shows. So no hemophilia, since again, hemophilia is a recessive sex-linked disorder. The only way for her to have hemophilia would be the genotype X little h, because only when there is no dominant present will that recessive show up, at least in this type of trait. Now, for a male to not have hemophilia, his genotype would have to be X big H, Y. Notice how I did not put anything on the Y chromosome. Again, most sex-linked traits are on the X chromosome. If he has the genotype X little h, Y, then he has hemophilia. He doesn't have 2 X chromosomes, so he cannot be a carrier. So let's say that 2 people that do not have hemophilia have children. However, let's say that the woman is a carrier. That means she is heterozygous. How do you do a sex-linked Punnett square cross for this kind of trait?
Okay. So that is your task. How would you do a Punnett square for that particular task where you have 2 parents, both of them are healthy, so neither have hemophilia, and the female is heterozygous? What would the Punnett square look like? That is your task. Go.